In my essay, Gay Love is a Spiritual Path, I make what some people find in the astonishing statement that God is gay. As I state clearly in the essay, I don't mean this in any exclusive sense, but rather in an inclusive sense in the sense of that too. If God, the divinity, is everything, then God must encompass also what is gay. Now, those who are used to kind of dualistic conceptions of deity, where all the good stuff is given to God and all the bad stuff is given to the anti-God, call him whatever, Satan or the devil, that isn't obvious. But in the Eastern philosophies, where deity encompasses the totality of being, everything which is subjectively thought to be good or subjectively thought to be evil, which is in fact all relative, depending on one's point of view, as Einstein showed us, then God encompasses everything. And even in the Western dualistic conceptions, they have this problem. God is all good, and yet evil exists in the world. Okay, how did that happen? Well, God gave us free will. Well, okay, that's nice, but free will only makes sense if there's a choice. So, if God only created good things, created free will, but then didn't create something called evil so that you could make a choice between good and evil, then there was no free will. Or you have to admit that God created evil too, in which case we're back to a holistic deity that contains both traditionally good and evil. Now, it's unfortunate a discussion of good and evil comes up in the context of God's gayness, but unfortunately that's how it's been framed in Western religions, that being gay sexuality is the opposite of spirituality. Well, for those of us who are gay identified, who've experienced gay love firsthand, that's just so patently false that it doesn't even require any explanation. We know that our love is pure. We know our love is holy. And pure or holy or not, it's the only love that we have. So a God that doesn't encompass our gay love, doesn't accept our gay love on its own terms, isn't a really compassionate deity. And again, you're left with that good-evil mixed in the deity thing. So the Eastern religions don't bother with that. It's like, God does everything. So good, evil, it all has its place. It's all part of God's Leela or play. And what's really more perplexing to the Western religions is the concept that deities have gender, not so much gender, because they have no problem talking about the fatherhood of God, but it's gender without genitals. So deities aren't supposed to have sex or sexuality. And although if they do, then it's presumed to be heterosexuality. After all, Jesus was the Son of God by Mary, with God being the Father somehow through some miraculous means. Anyway, in the East, again, no problem. Of course, deities have genitals, deities have gender, and also the concept of deity goes beyond, encompasses both and neither and everything else. So, but psychologically, that's very important that deities be allowed to be conceptualized as having genitals, of having sexuality. Because if we are to do what in Tantra dictates to us, that is, having become God, worship God, we have to be able to identify with that God in every aspect, and we can't leave anything out. So when you're creating the divine body, for instance, in the tantric ritual, it has to be the whole body, not just the parts that you consider acceptable or holy. And especially in Tantra, anything that's considered unacceptable and unholy especially has to be placed in the divine to overcome your crazy neuroses about sex and other kinds of things that distort your perception of reality. So, why does God have to be gay? Well, for a gay identified person to approach to approach God with the kind of full-fledged, unhesitating devotion necessary to actually realize God, which is what we're talking about in Eastern religions, self-realization, God realization, then the gay individual has to be able to fully identify with the deity, has to feel that the deity is gay, in the sense that this gay deity gets you in the way that another gay man gets you, understands your motivations, appreciates what you appreciate. Some being, although greater and more grand in some sense, fully embraces and accepts and gets who you are as you are. This is essential, and it's a part that has often been neglected and left out of ascetic approaches to spirituality that want to kind of brush sexuality under the rug, so to speak, or leave it outside the temple door with your shoes. But in my own experiments with tantric practice and many years of ascetic practice that were felt productive up to a point, but I had always kind of reached a kind of plateau beyond which I couldn't pass, until I realized I had to bring all that sexual energy with me. I couldn't just leave it aside. And when I did that, when I approached God as a gay man approaches another gay man, then things began to move very quickly spiritually. And I was confirmed in my belief that God not only is gay and gets me as a gay man, but that approaching him that way was simply the most direct and powerful way that I, as a gay person, could approach him. So, when I talk about gay tantra, I'm talking about bringing the totality of our gay being to spiritual practice with no reservations. We must go wholeheartedly. It's difficult enough as it is without holding yourself back somehow, or feeling less worthy or unworthy or not ready because of some neurosis around your sexuality. No, you have to bring the totality of yourself to your spiritual practice the way Ramakrishna did. You know, as it says in the gospel, I want to embrace Krishna the way a wife embraces her husband. Now, whether you understand that in explicitly sexual terms or just as purely spiritual metaphor, it doesn't matter. It's what he said, and that's the kind of sincere approach that one must bring in deep spirituality. You have to be able to bring that totality of your being to spiritual practice for it to be successful.